Okay, I think we can just get started. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. We're happy to say you're welcome to our webinar, which is the Women Policy and Energy Transition webinar. We're so glad to have you. We know that you took time out of your busy day to join us today, and so we're so glad that you've joined us today. Just sharing my screen in a couple of minutes so everyone can see. Just a moment. Perfect. Can you all see my screen? Lovely. All right, on that note, again, I say you're welcome to the Women Policy and the Energy Transition webinar. And today we're going to have a lot of conversations on policy barriers impacting women in renewable energy. This webinar is brought to you by EnergyHaus and RMI. But just before we start, just before we kick things off, it would be lovely to get to know every one of you. I know you've taken time out of your busy schedule. Maybe for some of you, you're just leaving work or you're still at work and you're just trying to, figure things out, right? So leave your name in the chat where you're joining us from. So country, your name, country, and what you do in the space. I want to get to know you. Like I already mentioned, my name is Tosin George. Okay, we have Mary. All right. Like I already mentioned, my name is Tosin George. I'm the founder of EnergyHaus Africa, and it's such a pleasure to be with you this lovely afternoon. All right, I see Kende there. Kende Alagwe from Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining. So just put your name in the chat. We want to get to know you. All right, we have Maria Juliana all the way from Colombia. Maria, how are you? How is Colombia today? It must be very hot, I imagine. All right, we have Jane Catherine carrying from Tanzania. Lovely. We have Musonda from England. Amazing. Chika all the way from Nigeria. Chika, you're welcome. I may not be able to pronounce this name, but I think I'll try. Dilamini from Eswatini. Thank you so much for joining. We have Paula, we have Rose, all the way from Washington, Paula from Ecuador. These are interesting countries. I've actually never met anyone from Ecuador. So you're the first person, Paula, I'm meeting from Ecuador. All right, we have Zara from Morocco. We have Dawit from Germany. We have, I apologize for the names, but I'm trying. I'm trying here. We have Kabura from Kenya. We have Rumbiz. I'm going to try. Rumbizai from Indonesia. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It has been a pleasure to bring this to your table, talking about policy barriers that impact women in the space. Right about now, I'm going to start and kick off with what we have planned for you today. So like I said, welcome everyone. We're so glad to have you. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, this webinar is brought to you by RMI and EnergyHaus Africa. So for our agenda today, we have a lot of things packed. For the agenda, I've just welcomed you, and I hope that was warm enough. We're going to go very quickly to housekeeping rules. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with webinars and how they go. So just a few rules just to let you know how we'll be conducting the webinar today. And then we'll do an introduction to EnergyHaus Africa and RMI, the two institutions that have brought this important conversation to your table. And then we're going to start the panel discussion right away. And then we'll have Q&A because I know that we have a lot of questions. I have questions, even though I'm the moderator, I have a lot of questions. And then we have upcoming events. We have curated a lot of events. Okay, I will not say a lot, a couple of events. A couple of events planned for women in the renewable energy sector. So please be on the lookout. Do not be in a hurry to leave. We have a lot of things, exciting things planned for you. And right after that, we're going to have the close of the event. So now starting with the housekeeping rules for the Women Policy and the Energy Transition webinar. Once again, we say welcome to the conversation. Because this is a webinar, so a lot of you are muted, actually. The audience is muted, and the panelists are the ones who are, okay. The audience is muted, and the panelists are the ones who are, able to speak. But if you're using your laptop, you have more features available to you. If you're on your phone, not to worry, you can always leave your comments in the chat. But if you're using your laptop, you can drop a reaction, send us an emoji, maybe clock something, right? Let us know if something is resonating with you. You can also ask questions as well in the Q&A feature. For those using their phones, you can as well just leave your questions in the chat. The team will be in the chat to pick them up. If you want to speak live, especially during the Q&A, you can request to call in. But please reserve this feature till the Q&A section. So please do not attempt to call right now, please. Let's wait till the Q&A time. If you can't stay the whole time, you can tune in to watch us live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube at EnergyHaus Africa. But please don't be in a hurry to leave. We want to spend our time with you. And we so appreciate the fact that you've left your busy day to spend your time with us. So please would like that you stay with us through the course of the entire event. This session is being recorded. However, all registered attendees will receive the session link, the recording link after the event. We'll be having polls via Mentimeter. I know a lot of us may be familiar with Mentimeter. It's a virtual tool for to take responses from the audience, and we have interesting things that not necessarily interesting, but just questions to get to know you better as you've chosen to spend your time with us today. So let's keep the conversation respectful and insightful, and we're so glad to have you here. So now I'm going to do a quick introduction to to EnergyHaus Africa, not RMI, EnergyHaus Africa. EnergyHaus is a women-owned platform, and we operate at the intersection of media, capacity development, and project management. We do a lot of work to create visibility for African energy professionals by highlighting their expertise, their skills, their journey in the sector. And a lot of the work that we do is to contribute to a more inclusive, resilient, future-ready energy workforce across Africa. And so what do? We do a lot of work across these 5 pillars you can see on your screen. We do articles and podcast publications. Till date, I think we've featured over 50 professionals from 24 African countries, including podcasts. And a lot of the podcasts and articles are focused on the human-centered stories from the sector. Policy conversations like this are the types that we want to bring to your table, especially as it touches energy policy and decision making, mentorship and capacity development as well. We're working on a couple of things, so be on the lookout. When you have it ready, we will share it via LinkedIn pages, consulting as well, all to support energy-focused initiatives and programs, as well as building community of women like you and I who are working in the sector, and we want to advocate for more inclusion of women in the entire ecosystem. So this is what we do at EnergyHaus, and so I'll hand over right now to Valentina Guido, who is the Senior Program Associate at RMI. Over to you, Valentina.
So much, Tosin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Valentina Guida Bergamo, and I'm a Senior Associate with RMI's Energy Transition Academy, or ETA. I'm excited to co-host this event today. I'm so excited that we're having this important conversation and look forward to hearing from all of our amazing panelists and you all today. So a little bit about the ETA before we jump in, the pulse and the conversation. RMI's ETA supports and inspires clean energy leaders like most of you, working to deliver clean energy change in their communities with the goal to accelerate the pace of clean energy project implementation. So this is the angle we're coming from here. And by the way, I would love to hear more about what everyone's working on and see if and how the ETA offering could support you all. And for those of you who might not know, RMI is a global nonprofit working to accelerate the energy transition globally. We have programs all over the world, mostly in the US, but also working across Africa, Southeast Asia, India, really to accelerate the pace of the energy transition from a lot of different perspectives and programmatic angles. But again, at the ETA, we're focused on people, on empowering clean energy leaders like you. And how do we do that? We design life-changing, tailored, and actionable learning experiences. We connect people across the clean energy ecosystem, and curate learning networks that accelerate project implementation. One of our flagship programs, if we go to the next slide, please, Tosin. Thank you. One of our flagship programs that you'll hear a little bit about today as well, as it's well represented here by our amazing alumni, is the Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship. This is an exciting program that we launched at the end of 2024 after months of thorough needs assessment research across Africa, mostly Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Zambia. And it was designed to strengthen women's technical and leadership capacity with the goal of catalyzing an inclusive energy transition. So during this fellowship, we're really focused on empowering women clean energy leaders through technical training, group mentorship, peer networking, capstone work, and a final in-person leadership accelerator. So by doing this, we aim to empower women fellows to lead the deployment of distributed energy resource projects, mostly mini-grids, but of course, we're not limited to that. And so the hope and the aim here is really to ensure that women in clean energy are not just participants, but also leaders in shaping the future of clean energy, because as we know, they end up being underrepresented in most contexts in this sector. And we'll hear more about that today. There's a few exciting pictures here from our ongoing cohort in Indonesia. That's the picture in the middle right there. That was our kickoff event hosted in Jakarta in November of last year. And the first and the third pictures are from the African cohort that just concluded in December, that, as I said, is well represented here today by a few of our alumni, and you hear more about them in just a second. Really grateful to be part of this conversation, really grateful to Tosin and our alumni and our panelists to engage in this important conversation. We're looking forward to learning, to exchanging, and to making new friends here today during the Q&A and networking portion. So thank you again for joining us, and back to you, Tosin.
Thank you, Valentina. And if you look at the first picture, my head is somewhere at the back there. I know the picture resolution is not that great right now. So I was a beneficiary of the Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship last year. And we're going to share a bit more, Valentina especially will share a bit more about the second cohort coming up this year. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much, Valentina. So right about now, before we start the conversation, we want to do a quick poll. If you can see your slide now, if you can see the screen now, I'm sharing a slide from Mentimeter. Remember, I shared that we're going to be doing a couple of polls from Mentimeter. So if you can see your screen now, please whip out your phone, scan the QR code, or go to menti.com and typing the number 713-2305. I feel like this is a radio show. 7413-2305. So you can either go to mentimeter.com, type in those numbers, or scan the QR code on your screen. And then the first question we want to ask today is a way for us to get to know you is, which region are you joining us from today? Are you joining us from Eastern Africa, West Africa, North Africa? I think I saw someone from Morocco, so I imagine North Africa will be represented today. Central Africa, right? Countries like, I imagine, which countries now? Central African Republic, Congo, DRC, if you're from those areas, Gabon. Yes, Central Africa. I don't see anyone from Central Africa today. I'm sure hopefully they will join us today. Southern Africa, outside Africa. Actually, we have more people outside of Africa. And this is an interesting thing to see. Let's have more responses. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. We're doing a poll on Mentimeter. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to menti.com and type in the numbers 74132305. We'll take a little more responses. Okay. Lovely. Amazing. All right. So to the next question Just a moment. Let me move this to the next question. Yes. So I want to know what you currently do in the sector. What do you currently do in the sector? Are you a policymaker, government official? Are you somebody, for example, if you're a policymaker, maybe you should be the ones that we should be talking to, right, about this policy barriers impacting women. So let us know. Are you a policymaker, government official? Are you a renewable energy professional? Let us know. I think we have more people now from development, NGO, civil society. That's also great. Okay, are you a student? Maybe you've just completed uni, or you're just starting out. Lovely. Or you're an entrepreneur in the space, a business owner. Let's know. Let's know. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Keep them coming in. Please, would love as much as possible that you participate in the polls, especially the ones from Mentimeter, because we are going to put all of your responses into a report that will be published in March. And as much as possible, we want to cover everyone's perspective, everyone's opinions and initiative. So it's important that we all, are a part of this. First, thank you so much for being a part. Thank you so much. We're going to start the panel discussion very soon. But just one more question before we go. One more question. Okay, so how familiar are you with gender equity issues in the renewable energy sector? We're talking about policy conversations, policy barriers impacting women in renewable energy. And I know even though this is something that we may be aware of, for so many people, it might be something that they're not familiar with. So let us know, is this something you're familiar with? Is this your everyday thing? Like this is what you do every day. This is your bread and butter, like we'll say in Nigeria, right? Or this is something you're very new to. You have not even heard about this before. This is your first time. Or you're somewhat there, you know a bit of the basics, and you just want to learn a bit more. Okay, let's keep the responses coming in. The number to type in is 7413-2305 on menti.com. You can also scan the QR code on your screen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for responses. All right. Right about now, we will start the panel discussions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we will get right into the panel discussion. So first, before we start, I want to sort of share a bit of what the context of how the panel discussion has been structured. So it's sort of shared, or how would I say it? It's divided into 3 themes. So the first theme is to sort of understand the policy landscape, the data, the statistics, the facts, what are some of the barriers impacting women in renewable energy, right? And then the second part will be lived experiences, where our panelists will share their experiences, and sort of ground that data in reality. Say, for example, when we say 1% of women do this and do that, we are women who are part of that statistics, and we have stories to share. We're not the only ones who have stories to share. You, as the audience, also have your own stories to share. And that's what we're going to be doing in the second theme. And in the third part of the panel discussion, we're going to be looking at how to move from those barriers, to action. So what actions are we going to take? What recommendations are we going to take, out of the conversation today? And one more thing I want to say is, as I pose questions to our panelists, please consider yourself a panelist as well. So as I pose these questions, try to reflect on them. So if there's something that drops, something that resonates with you, put them in the chat. During the course of the panel discussion, I will take your comments and share them. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again today. So we're about to start the panel discussion. All right, so I want to start by posing my first question to Madam Beatrice Eyong. But before I even start the questions, let me introduce our panelists to you first. So right here, we have a mix of interesting panelists to discuss the topic that we have at hand. First, I will introduce Miss Beatrice Eyong. Miss Beatrice Eyong is a Cameroonian national. She's the UN Women Country Representative to Nigeria. She has over 35 years of experience working in promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. So Ms. Beatrice has been working in the sector even before a lot of us were born. So Ms. Beatrice, we're very happy to have you here today. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to now introduce Philagot Tesfaye. Philagot is the founder and managing director of On Energy Consult. She's also the co-founder of the Ethiopian Women in Energy Association. And through a consultancy firm, she has provided advisory services to governments, public institutions, investors, private sector, and various players in the space. So thank you so much, Philagot, for joining us today. Philagot will be sharing a lot of her technical experience, even from a systems thinking perspective as well. So we're so happy to have Philagot here today. Thank you so much, Philagot, for
Thank you
joining.
so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tosin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So now this next set of women, I'm very excited about it because we were together on the Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship last year. All of us were in Zambia together, so we've met each other. Don't ask me if we've only met each other online. No, we've met each other in person, and I'm so glad to be introducing them. I'm going to start with Annie. Annie is a legal and regulatory consultant in the energy sector with experience in electricity market regulation, energy law and policy, and she's contributed to the development of several state electricity laws, policies, and regulatory frameworks in Nigeria. So we have the right set of people for this conversation. Thank you, Annie, for joining us today. Thank you, Annie. All right, I'm also going to introduce Mwaka Mwape. Mwaka is a renewable energy professional with expertise in solar energy, clean cooking solutions, carbon impact projects. She's led a lot of initiatives that have expanded energy access across several communities in Zambia. Thank you so much, Mwaka, for joining us.
Awesome.
Thank you. And to the last but not the least, we have Meron Alemu. Meron is a renewable energy professional with expertise in clean energy access, electrification, clean cooking as well. We have a lot of girlies in clean cooking. All right, gender responsive energy programming. And she brings to this conversation a lot of strong technical foundation in renewable energy and market-based energy access initiatives in Ethiopia. So thank you so much, Meron, for joining us today.
Thank you, Tosin. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, so now the time is here to start the panel discussion, and I'll be posing my first question to Ms. Beatrice. So I want to start by setting the stage with this statistic. So the statistic that says that 32% of the global renewable energy workforce is occupied by women. So that's global. But in Africa, those numbers are lower, to about 25%. So Ms. Beatrice, based on your perspective from UN Women, what do you think are some of the root causes, driving some of these low numbers in a very important, industry and sector like the renewable energy space?
Good afternoon, I think, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Tosin, for putting this together and for inviting UN Women. I have 40 years of working experience.
Wow.
I have worked in different African countries, and I bring to you different aspects of gender. This is a very, very interesting question that you're asking. Before I get into it, UN Women is a UN agency for gender equality and women's empowerment. Actually, we work for women's participation in politics, in governance. We work for women's economic empowerment. And within our women's economic empowerment, we have climate smart agriculture. And our biogas is very important for clean cooking and also for organic fertilizer within the farm. We work against gender-based violence, and we work for women, peace and security and humanitarian action. But today I'm not going to go deep in that, except somebody asks a question. Tosin, I want to add some statistics so you can really see the situation where we are. 3 out of 10 staff in renewable energy in Nigeria are women. And out of these statistics, you see, out of those 3, 64% hold no STEM positions. 21% actually occupy only admin posts. That tells you something. And those who hold STEM roles are actually just 8%. And 60% who were contacted say they are even in the sector, they say they are considering leaving their jobs in 1 or 2 years. That tells you a lot of things that is within that sector. In terms of constraints, I will start by the normal ones that we know, the sociocultural constraints, the perceptions that men or society have vis-a-vis women. They feel that women are good for maybe some cooking, some jobs that actually are an extension of their reproductive activities. So they don't actually see women as those who can actually maybe do STEM and become engineers and all those. And so those perceptions, as we can see, like in Nigeria, I will tell you, there's a high dropout of girls. Out of the 18.5 million of dropout children from school, 60% are girls. And one of some of the reasons they go out of school is the fact that they are either going for early marriage or child marriage, or they will have to help the house with economic empowerment. So this automatically shows you that these girls would not go to do STEM. And even in school, where you have the orientation services, the school services will orient the girl saying, just do what you can do. After all, you are going to get married. You'll be in a man's house and all those kind of things. So they orient them to the traditional reproductive activities that they are supposed to do. So this actually limits their access to real education, to skills and technology, especially to STEM. Another thing I would put on the table is the systematic gender inequalities in the community and the workplace. I've already talked about the dropout. In terms, if a family is poor, they would definitely prefer to send the boy to school and also take the girl for marriage and some other things, or allow her just to be selling the market with their mother or something like that. And in the workplace, before I go to the workplace, we have the issue of resources, difficult access to resource. In Nigeria, for instance, women, despite the fact that more than 70% work in, they are the people who provide labor in the agricultural sector, but they own and manage just 10% of resources. So even if you have a market solution of selling solar panels or bringing biogas or bringing something to them, it is difficult for them to buy, for those who are actually poor within the communities. And in terms of the workplace, we have heard some men who say they don't feel very comfortable to recruit women, young women, because for them, they feel that they take a lot of leave, they go for maternity leave and all those things. So definitely you begin to see a male-dominated area. We have carried out a study. We have seen like what we have male-dominated sectors in the country. We have what with the renewable energy. We have we're talking about maritime. We're talking about mining, and then you need to see the role that women play. They are not represented in the decision-making position. So when you even take an energy company, a renewable energy company, or just an energy company, then you will see where the women are. And that speaks a lot, because if women are not sitting at the table to decide, they cannot even think of the needs of women in the renewable energy sector. So that too is an issue, and underrepresentation of women in decision making, in climate governance and in climate financing. Those who take the decisions are not many, and they don't. Who are women are not many, and so those they don't even consider that women can actually they should think
Indeed.
about it. Mhm. The other point I will put on the table is the gender blindness of policies, even of the renewable policies and the financing policies. They are gender blind. And when you listen to the talk, I've listened to a couple of discussions on energy transition. What you will see, they are talking about big, huge energy transitions. Even when the government is talking, it's talking about huge, big energy transitions. But the question is, what is it there for women? The majority of women live in the rural communities, live in the states. If all those discussions are going on in Abuja or Lagos, in the federal state, what is in there? What is it there for women? I'm not saying that the whole sector is dark, but what I'm saying is that women face more challenges. We have seen opportunities, and we have seen men who support women, and we have also seen women who have also been strategically positioned, to help in terms of the renewable energy. So I think the fact that the policies are not really responsive, it does not guide the government or policymakers, decision makers to actually come with concrete actions for what to
That
do for women and men within the sector. The last thing
correct.
I will put on the table is the issue of financing. Financing is a big, big issue. All of us, the gender experts who are here, will agree with me that even to find financing for gender equality these days is very difficult, because there's a lot of pushback for gender equality and women's empowerment financing or funding because of what has happened at the international space. But uh, what I'm talking now is related to climate smart solutions. What I'm talking about is the financing. What are they financing? The projects that they are financing, how does it meet women's needs, women's immediate needs? And I was talking with some bankers the other day, and I was telling them there is need for them to align their financing policies to women, because sometimes the financing policies do not follow the women's needs. Let me take, for example, let me go a little bit out of, so that we can understand. If you take, for instance, women who are in fashion, okay, these women, they sew, they design, they sew, they market. They have seasons where if you go to them, they have huge sales and they can easily pay. But these bankers, once they give them money at very high interest rate, they will want them to start the next month, start paying, which is not adapted to the business. So we are telling them, if you want your finances to be adapted, your loans and your credits to be adapted to these women's needs, come when they have huge sales. Those times we all know them. We know Ramadan. We know a Christmas time. We know
Exactly.
Easter. We know different. That is when you should arrange for them to repay. Because if you don't give them actual grace period, it's difficult for them. So talk less about the renewable energy. Who wants
Certainly.
to finance it? So there's a problem in finance. Last, I conclude for this time, is the aspect of digital solutions. We are living in a time when we have great big possibilities, opportunities with the digital. But I want to say, because of the reasons that I have talked earlier, you don't have many women, especially in the rural communities, at state level, who can even, some of them don't even know how to master a computer, talk less about handling digital issues to solve
Certainly.
problems, especially the fact that Nigeria has gone all out for a digital economy. So if women are not integrated in that digital economy, all these things we are talking about, renewable energy, is not going to help them, because they will not be able to buy them or access them. Thank you for
Yes.
listening to.
No, thank you so much, Miss Beatrice. You have sort of set the stage, with all the facts. You gave us, important barriers, policy barriers that we should start to consider. Cultural stereotypes, I know that's a big one, especially in this part of Africa. Systemic gender equalities, workplace culture, finance as well. And you also mentioned something around gender blindness of policies, and which is what I think I'm going to ask Phila got on. So thank you again, Ms. Beatrice, for setting that lovely introduction, into the panel discussion. So Phila got, we know that you have a lot of experience. You bring a lot of experience from the technical side, systemic perspective. In the sector, you've advised governments. You own your own consultancy, right? And the reports that say that 3 out of 54 African countries, I think Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, only 3 out of 54 African countries have dedicated gender strategies. So for the audience, when we mean dedicated gender strategies, so they're thinking of, okay, for example, credit access to women, women quotas, say for example, on regulatory boards, electricity regulatory boards, decision-making panels, women quotas are, sort of taken into consideration, things like that. And so, Phil, I want to ask you, so as somebody who has this level of experience, right, what happens if or when we keep designing energy infrastructure and policies without gender consideration? Ms. Beatrice has set the stage for us, but from your own perspective, what happens if we don't include gender strategies into our policies, especially in the renewable energy space?
Thank you so much, Tosin. It's also a great pleasure to be here today. And thank you, Miss Beatrice, for that great insights that you've shared for us. So I'll build on that. I see that women career development or, women empowerment in the energy sector is really shaped by complex nature of the sector. So that's why we should have systems thinking. Why I'm saying this is, there are multiple factors. If policy is one, education is the other one, technology is another one, leadership, and all of that. So if we don't have that broad understanding of the gaps and the opportunities first, I think that will be difficult for us, even, to implement the strategies that we have. It will be just a document or that will be put in the shelf. So first, we should understand. For example, if, a woman in the energy space might be very enthusiastic about education. Let's say she has done her PhD or whatever to the higher level of education. If the policy is not there, education alone cannot make the ambitions or the reality that you want to achieve. Technology will affect if, as Ms. Beatrice was saying, that finance is the major issue. If there is no finance access, all of those expertise, all of those educations and other things, will not have value. So now policy is a great tool to, I think, balance all of those things. And the street strategies, policies are really, really important. So from my perspective, when we think of infrastructure, and developing the energy transition, the energy systems, when we design without gender considerations, that means we don't create neutral systems. We create a system that's a default only for male participants. So we have to be intentional about that. Energy policy is often written around assumptions, as we know. Some of the assumptions might be the investor has a collateral, will be maybe one of the assumptions, or someone will have the assumptions that all the entrepreneurs has a mobility. They have opportunity to move around and to do the things that they want to implement. Or we might say, or all technicians can relocate any place. So such kind of assumptions are really critical to design the strategies there. So if we are not able to understand the gender's perspective, the women's need within all those strategies, I don't think that we will create an inclusive infrastructures that will be utilized by everybody. So it will create infrastructure that will be only utilized by some group of the community. So if we have those assumptions there, those will be embedded into the financial systems, into governance, into policies, into enforcement, all of that. So I think critically, assumptions are very important. So when we have those assumptions, we have to consider the gender issues. There are some limitations for women. We know that when we think of construction projects, for example, in mining, in energy, infrastructure, road building, all of that. So women are mostly excluded in those discussions. Women issues are excluded on those discussions. I think one of the barriers is because we have few women in those tables. So the people coming there will bring their own experience and will bring their own voices. So to give a concrete example, for example, in many off-grid areas, while doing some of my projects, in so those renewable programs, land title is required as a collateral, for example. So as we know, in sub-Saharan Africa, women owns less than 50% of land. So the policy itself becomes a technical barrier there. So it's not helping. It's not because women lack competence, but they lack access to an asset. So the system already decided it's a mandatory. So, there is no any space for a woman to participate in such kind of, scenarios. Another example I can mention is regarding training schedules. For example, when we design training schedules, many technical certifications programs um, target or consider some of the factors. When we see, for example, in remote projects, um, in remote sites, there is no sanitation facility over there. That's a barrier. So really, this is not a minor detail, by the way. That's really a structural exclusion mechanism. I mean, since we are in it, we know how it is difficult if we don't have proper sanitation facilities within those places. So sometimes it's not intentional. So that's where policies enforcement are really helpful. When we design those strategies, then those people, even if they are not experienced, even if they don't experience it personally, if the law or the policy or the strategies are there, that means they can consider it, right? So that's where we want the strategies. If we don't consider that, I think inclusion in the energy transition in infrastructure projects will not be realized.
Thank you, Filaga. Thank you. And I think I resonate with the point. It feels like you already know, you're already anticipating my next question, right? Which is around assets, collateral provision. I think Ms. Pichi's already mentioned on that. So for example, women want to start businesses in, their communities, and then there's usually an expectation that there's some sort of collateral, and women don't exactly have access to collateral. It's very difficult, or you don't even have it at all, and yet that is that is what is expected, required, to access loans, to access credit facilities, right? And so, Meryl, let me come to you because you do a lot of work around gender responsive programming. So, but as a young woman in the space, knowing the statistics that women rarely have access to, the right opportunities, the right things that they require to, to start this type of businesses. But how, in your opinion, or have you encountered any situations where a lack of collateral, it may be you, maybe other people, where a lack of collateral has blocked your ability to secure financing or partnerships? So whether it was you or a group of women trying to secure financing for projects or want to get partnerships, how was that experience and how did that make you feel? Especially how did that make you feel, especially with the way the system is structured?
Yeah, thank you, Dasan. Actually, I have seen it while we're working on different projects. We are like trying to engage SMEs for electrification projects, and most of the requirements for the tenders and the implementation were like demanded like 3 to 5 years experience, and also large amount of upfront capitals, and also sometimes we may request for collateral, and mostly SMEs or like startups could not provide such evidences. So yeah, I just realized that it's such financial requirements that like they're not gender neutral, and which are not encouraging for upcoming new especially woman-led businesses. So it's basically designed around like asset ownership, and it needs formal banking relationships as well. It's basically benefits for established networks. So
Yeah.
as we exclude women-owned enterprises, mostly in renewable energy market, we're not just limiting women, we're just limiting also the innovation behind that, the job creation, and also the energy access expansion. So like it needs to be looked very carefully, and also the financial procedures need to be revised. They have to be more gender inclusive and to support the energy transition as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Mara. So I like the experience, the stories that you shared about, not necessarily stories, but just your own experience with the field, about access to capital, which is very important, especially when you're starting businesses. And the solar business is quite expensive. You have to provide a lot of capital upfront. So if you don't have that collateral or some sort of financing, it becomes very difficult. And what we're inadvertently doing is blocking access to energy access, right? Improved energy access, innovation, like you already mentioned, Maron. Okay, Mwaka and Income, let me come to you. So let me read out this set of statistics. And for our audience, because we're setting the policy landscape, understanding the barriers, so you're going to hear me read a couple of statistics. So don't get too bored. All right. So looking at this, let's look at this data together. It says 1%, just 1% of public procurement contracts go to women-owned businesses. Very low, 1%, and that 5% of energy company CEOs are women. And I remember Miss Beatrice mentioning that sometimes women pay higher interest rates, on the businesses, whether in the energy sector or even outside. So, which one of these statistics that surprised you the most, or maybe even resonate with you based on your own experience? Mwaka, maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Kim.
All right, thank you, Tosin. I would say definitely the one that 5% of energy companies are run by women. There's been a long-standing gap when it comes to board-level sponsorship for women. And
Yeah.
definitely, I would say as a result, you don't see many women taking part in executive level decision-making roles. So it's a governance issue. When women are underrepresented at board level and in senior level technical roles, they are less likely to be sponsored at that level, which shapes
Yeah.
who ultimately makes investment and policy decisions. So if we want a truly inclusive energy transition, we must intentionally strengthen leadership, and we must intentionally strengthen this for the pathways for women, from technical entry all the way to boards and executive roles, because representation at the top directly influences who capital is allocated to and whose priorities are reflected in the sector.
Very, very well said, Mwaka, and straight to the point. So if you don't include women, it just doesn't make sense, to be honest. And it means that there are less and less women in especially senior roles. I think there's another report that says about 6% of women are in executive technical positions. Annie, let's hear your thoughts. Annie, we can't hear you. You're currently muted.
Okay. Apologies. So before I answer that question, there's something Phila got said that I think we need to address. I just realized that there's sort of jurisdictional discrepancies because from my experience in Nigeria, financial institutions, whether commercial banks, whether development finance institutions, they don't accept titles to land or bear land as collateral in Nigeria. I haven't seen any. There has to be a fixed asset on the property, or sometimes they could use the solar assets as the collateral. But even at that, they feel the solar assets are not usually very disposable. So they will have to also ask for a bank guarantee.
So even where a woman in Nigeria has access to land, it's like a double barrier because even with the access to land, she will not be able to get access to funding because the bare land can be taken as adequate collateral. So I just wanted to mention that because I think is important. Then to your
Thank you.
question, for me it would be charging higher interest rate for women. But truthfully speaking, I haven't experienced that in my career because when financial institutions do their risk assessment, they do it based on the technical capacity of the people behind the project and also their financial capacity. I have not experienced any project or any scenario, neither have I witnessed it, where because it's a woman that is behind the project, the person has more conditions to fulfill in order to acquire the loan. I haven't experienced that yet. I would be very, very shocked if it happens, and I want to hear if others have experienced it. Thank you, Tosin.
No, thank you, Nkem. Let's put comments in the chat. So if you've heard of, cases where women are, charge higher interest rates, let's know. Or maybe that's not the case anymore. Let's know. Please put your comments in the chat. We'd like to hear from you. So we've just concluded the first part of the conversation. Very quickly, I'd like that we take a quick poll, very, very quick poll. So I'll be sharing my screen shortly so that we can continue our engagement here. So very quickly, now that we've heard, our panelists, they've talked about some of these barriers. So I want to ask you, the audience, right? Based on what you've heard so far, what barrier do you think is the biggest impact on women's participation in renewable energy in your own context? So whether you're in Africa or you're outside Africa, what do you think is the biggest impact? How to participate, go to mentimeter.com or menti.com. Type in the code 74132305, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. All right, I'd love to get your responses. Okay, I think we have more people joining. Oh, discriminatory workplace culture and safety concerns. Amazing. Limited access to technical education and training. Let's get more responses. We'd like to get your thoughts. We'd like to get your opinions on what you think are the biggest impact on women's participation in renewable energy in your region. Let's get more responses. We've mentioned lack of access to finance already. We've also mentioned gender blind policies. I wonder if we consider those biggest impacts. Limited access to mentorships and networking programs. I've been a part of several mentorship programs and networking programs. I just completed one last year, and I thought it was very, very beneficial to me. Okay, I see the numbers are going up. Okay, the highest we have now is limited access to technical education and training. Okay, we have some more. I can go to the next question. Okay, exclusion from decision making and leadership. Very, very good. Lovely. Thank you. Keep dropping your responses in so that we can take all those opinions and put them in our report, which will be published in March. Okay, very quickly, let's go to the next question, which is, have you personally witnessed or experienced gender barriers in the renewable energy sector? Have you witnessed anything like that? Or maybe it's really not maybe you've never really witnessed it. Let's know. Maybe we're just talking. It's not something that everybody experiences. Okay, yes, someone says they've experienced, all right. You've experienced and you've also witnessed it. Okay, if someone is not too sure, it's not really applicable, okay. We have others who have witnessed it. They've witnessed others experiencing these barriers. Okay, let's keep more responses coming in. Just go to mentimeter.com, scan the QR code, and you can also just type in the number that you see on your screen. Lovely, 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 lovely. Amazing. All right, so let's go back to our panel discussion. And Shaida Erica Rebecca says that she hasn't come across the statistics where women have higher interest rates. Okay, that's interesting. The biggest impact in women's participation is limited access.
Can I say something?
Lovely. All right, Ms. Patrice.
Sorry to just jump in. One of my specialization is microfinance. So they are talking about whether the interest rate for women are higher. The issue that is there is not that they are definitely going to say that this particular loan is reserved for women and it will be higher in terms of interest rate. No, the issue is that women usually come with smaller requests for loans. They don't come for very big loans. And financial institutions prefer big loans because when you come with big loan, imagine that somebody is coming with 100 million and somebody is coming with 5 million. It's the same screening process that will pass. It is the same reporting. It's the same paperwork and everything. So they will prefer to give to somebody who is big because they are giving big and they are going to have it. But for smaller loans, the women may not be even be interested. The banks may not even be interested because it's small. I can give you an example. We are not giving loans, but we give grants. We're giving some amount of grants for women's activities, and we had some people within our partners team saying that no, it's too small. We cannot accept that kind of. But we went ahead, and today, if you go to Kwali, you will see we have built a processing unit for women in Kwali. So sometimes they look at women's loans as very, very small, and they can decide not to actually prioritize women's loans. And I want to tell you, I was with one person, if I call her name, all of you will know her, in Nigeria. And she was telling me that she went to a microfinance institution. They were asking her for 45%. So if that kind of person who is knowledgeable, they are still asking 45%. She's a woman. She's a well-known woman. I don't want to bring her name here. And then imagine those who don't even know where to go. So this is what I wanted to add. Sometimes they despise our loan size. They are not interested in getting into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Beatrice. Thank you for adding that. Very, very lovely. Vicky saying she loves this conversation. Thank you, Vicky. We love this conversation as well. All right. Let me bring this to you, Phila God. Now we're going to ask. Now we're looking at lived experiences. And Phila God, you man. Let me use the word you man. You man an association for Ethiopian women in energy. So you've seen multiple contexts, you've worked across different areas, and you're also a woman, navigating the sector. So when you're advising on technical projects or maybe even policy frameworks, for example, have you encountered situations where your technical expertise was questioned or dismissed in ways that you suspect will not even happen to a male colleague just because you're a woman? Philogos, you're muted if you're trying to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Lovely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really what a question. One of the things that I like about this webinar is that we are experiencing similar things, even if
Yeah.
we are living in different places. Our location, our geography. Some of us are from the west, from the east, outside of Africa. So all of us mostly are experiencing similar challenges in the sector. So I like that. So those kind of discussions will encourage everybody, because we can say that I'm not the only one who is facing this challenge. My sister out there is also facing this challenge. So let's get encouraged, and let's try to build the ecosystem that we are really looking forward to have in our generation, and as well as to our children's generation. So regarding your question, of course, many times, as a technical expertise in the sector, there have been different occasions in meetings, in projects. As you said, I do many technical things, including
Can we all get Philagot? I think we've lost her a bit.
including the engineering
Philagot, you're losing you a bit. Okay.
some
I think
questions. Can you hear me now?
yes. You were frozen for a bit,
Okay.
but we do.
Oh, sorry about that. So I
No.
was saying that when I present technical analysis and present the room would redirect, the technical validations to a male colleagues. So even if, I do those technical presentations, I do the hard work, but they need the voice and the validation to come from the male counterparts. Uh, even if they are junior, sometimes more the sector respects more opinions to come from the male colleagues. So sometimes there are some exceptions. Uh, so they might say, are you more on the gender side of it? So sometimes, even if, I present technical side, they may label me as a gender expert, as someone who only talk about women things. Um, so they even forget that I'm a technical person there. So, but through this experience, I handle it in different ways. So I over prepare technically. I read and I do all the background works so that to help me to present the technical side of it in a well prepared way. I also respond with data, not emotions. The emotional things are always happening. So, I have to show myself that I'm capable to do the technical things. And I'm trying to document everything as much as possible. I might say, no, these are the things I was saying last time, and these are the things now. So I try to document and validate myself without the requirement of validation by other person. Um, but let me be honest, this extra labor is there. It's invisible. No one sees that.
Yeah.
But it puts extra effort, extra things, extra time to help me, or to so that people can trust me more on the technical side of it. So women in the technical fields are often required to be more, maybe 150% prepared to be considered 100% credible. So yeah, the challenge is there. We're all in this together, but the challenge will continue. I don't think that we can solve within very short period of time. I know there had been some change, even when I see and when I compare the numbers when we start the Ethiopian Women in Energy Association, it had been now almost more than 5 years. So when I see the progress, the change, the attitude change in the sector, how the people now started to accept women experts in the space, there had been change, but of course it's very slow. But the labor, the efforts that we have tried, uh, are not uh, void. So it's now the fruits are there. As I said, a long journey is there ahead of us, but we can beat that.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Philago,
you.
for sharing your experience. Let's just take one more question around lived experience. And Annie, I think I'm going to come to you. I remember that Miss Beatrice was sharing statistics about the number of young girls in STEM, and even if they're in STEM, in many cases, they do leave for several other cultural stereotypes around having women in STEM. And so there's this another report that says that 45% of women leave the sector. So these are working professionals, so leave the sector within 10 years. And after having children, when you start to have families, you have more women leaving the sector. So you have a career in policy, in regulatory frameworks and the like. So have you ever been in a position where you've considered leaving the sector? Or thinking, I don't know, or maybe Annie, you're really strong-minded. We're not like you, and so you keep staying on
Yeah.
regardless.
I've been in that situation. I've had situations where I considered leaving and I actually left. I will give a brief on that. But I've also had colleagues, females, that had to leave to focus on family, to go join their husbands abroad and all that. So you find out that these are the situations that seem to limit us women in the industry. So, but for my own part, the reason why I left actually was because of the workload. And I was resuming work before 7 a.m. After 6, 7 a.m., I'm in the office. And I stay in the office without breaks, without leaving the office till like 9, 10 on a regular basis. It continued happening. I complained to the HR. At a point, it didn't stop. I was still mandated to be in the office that long. At a point, I'm like, okay, I'm entitled to an overtime. I
Yes.
consulted the HR. They asked me to write requesting for approval for an overtime, which I did. And the officer in charge of the approval minuted on the request, not under my watch. It was kind of, it was a tough period, but when I look at it, it's not just about the workload or about the long hours I spent at work, but it was about the lack of policy, internal policy frameworks now to prevent that kind of situation. Especially in a situation where the source of concern, or where I don't want to use the word oppression, is coming from the highest ranking officer in the organization. So if you're experiencing this kind of a thing, who do you run to? There are no, when you look at most companies in the energy sector, there are no gender responsive human resource frameworks to prevent this kind of situation. So you find out that women leave not because of lack of commitment or because of lack of competence, but it's because the structure isn't designed to retain them anyways. So you find most women living in a family, living for their mental health and the rest of it. So
Thank you. Annie, are you there? Okay, right.
yes.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that. Amina is putting something in the chat now, saying that I totally agree with Philegod. You're required to perform better than anyone to be considered. It's still hard to be considered no matter what your degrees and skills are. So yeah, I did consider switching to another career away from STEM, but always in climate and clean energy related roles. Thank you so much, Amina, for sharing that. So we all go through this, not just because we're panelists, but we all go through this. Thank you so much. Please keep your comments coming in. We want to hear from you. These questions are not just for our panelists, they're for you as well. So as we ask, let's reflect, let's share. We're together in this. So happy to hear from all of you. Okay, now let's move swiftly from barriers to action. We're talking about the data, our lived experiences from Philagot and Annie. So Umwaka, let's go now to action. So despite all of these barriers that we face, the renewable energy sector is projected to create millions of jobs in Africa over the next 10 years. So if women participated at the same rate as men, Irina estimates that we can add $1.3 trillion to the global GDP, right? And 89 million more people rather, would have access to electricity. So to young women who are here, who are watching us, who are listening to this panel, what are some advice that you have for them? Umaka will take one advice from you, and Miriam will take another. Umaka, let's start with you.
Okay, thank you, Tosin. I'm really excited about this question because this is something that I actively teach my mentees. So one of them, I think I would say, is never stop learning. As the energy transition is happening, we've seen so many educational programs that are happening. It could be short courses, it could be fellowships, which we were a part of last year, and it could be even be mentorships. So you need to take part in these so that you can build your technical proficiency, and not only that, you position yourself better for management roles. So that's definitely one piece of advice I would definitely say women should take part in.
Thank you, Mwaka. I will take Maron and then I'll read one more comment from the chat. Over to you,
Yeah,
Maron.
thank you, Tosin. Yeah, I would say like build technical credibility. If there is any kind of certificate which is required to do your job, get it like as soon as possible, and to try to understand the policy framework which are available, and know the financial structure, and especially in African market as well, and try to get all the technical competency to be the strongest, and also it's a good negotiating tool, as we know. So, and also get to know more about the procurement and financial procedures to be the first whenever there is an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank
Back
you
to
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Maron. Lovely. Melissa Hill in the comments is saying that she's busy considering leaving the industry after 11 years. That's a lot of investment in the space, and we can't keep losing women like this. We have to, I don't know what we will do, but again, this is the first step, talking about it, but we have to take action. I don't know how to take the action right now, but let's talk about it. I together as a group, I think we'll find some way, not say find some way, but again, I think the first step is to start talking about it. Okay, now to round up this part, because I know that we're almost at time. Philagot, I have another question for you. I like to hear your thoughts because you bring a lot of technical experience and systems perspective. And so I'm asking you, so in what would be one specific thing, right, that, say, for example, you're part of a project and things like that, what would be one specific thing you would want the society to commit to, say, in the next 3 months? You know, whether it's maybe to revise procurement criteria. Remember that we said that 1% of procurement contracts go to women, only 1%. So what would be one thing that you want to change in the next 3 months? Would it be procurement criteria, targeted training slots, collecting gender data, or maybe even redesigning workplace policies, or other things, besides what I've just mentioned?
Thank you so much, Tosin. So, yeah, one thing that I imagine can, contribute a lot is to collect and understand the data that we have. We have to collect and publish gender disaggregated data across all the project lifecycle. Not just for the employment numbers, but we have to analyze who applied. We were now hearing from different participants, not only the panelists. The last comment, she has she's thinking about, or she has already dropped from the sector after 11 years. That's just a loss.
Yeah.
So we have to start to analyze those, uh, who is dropping out from the sector, who was shortlisted for projects, and also for procurement. Those numbers, for example, the 1% number were there because it was measured. So
Mm-hmm.
if we continue to measure such data and to analyze, and then we can then ask why, what's the reason, what keeps them to drop out, or what push them to leave the sector. And then we have to also analyze the numbers related with finance, who received finance, what was the requirement, why less women applied, or why less women get access to finance. um, and if there was a default, why? Who defaulted? Is it the women? Is it the men? And why is that? Such kind of understanding will help us to measure, and also to get funds, to put the finance where it's required and it's where it's important. So, if every renewable energy project cycle required gender disaggregated reporting, And if it's tied to the performance indicators there, I think behavior will shift automatically. That's how we can change the ecosystem, how we can influence the behavior, the attitude, and the intention, the assumptions that I was referring previously. Those assumptions will eventually change if we are able to measure the numbers there. So I think it's if this can be implemented within the next 3 months, then we can bring a lot change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Very, very relevant. I'll come to you, Ms. Beatrice, and then we'll take one question to end the discussion now. Ms. Beatrice, we've already established from reports all over the world that we lose $160 billion annually in productivity if we miss our energy access targets, because we know we need energy to power the economy, things like that. And so what would be in your closing thoughts now, what would be your message to policymakers? We're reading from women who are willing to leave the industry after 11 years. Someone is also saying in the comments that the structure is not designed to retain women. It's not flexible in any way. So what would be, your own, if you could talk to a policymaker, to business leaders, to finance people, DFIs, what would be your own message to them? Especially these are the people who have the power to change things, and we don't have many women represented there, so we're even worse off, in our opinion. So what would be your message to these kind of people to change, to move the needle, especially for women in the sector?
Yeah, thank you. Before I just go quick to your question, I wanted to put something on the table about what we do with private enterprises. We have over 200 private enterprises in Nigeria who have ratified what we call the Women Empowerment Principles. And those women empowerment principles, once the companies register, then we start a series of institution building. So we have a policy for sexual harassment, we have work-life balance, we have PC, that is prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse. So we have all those, we help them put in place that policies. And WEBS, for instance, has 8 elements within WEBS. It looks from when the women enter the enterprise up to how they are retained, how they grow, how they enjoy themselves as women. You can still work, produce very well with flexible working systems put in place for women to work, how you can grow, and how you can also influence the outreach. That's one thing that we do with them. And in terms of lived experience, I wanted to put on the table that we have done a couple of work in Rwanda. In Rwanda, we have a gender responsive energy policy, which came through a reform, which came after we had gender audits carried out, gender mainstreaming, like she was talking about tracking and reporting, making sure that we are following the numbers. We are not only following the numbers, we are also following the condition of life, of work. How is it improving? What is the impact? We've had in Kenya, even in Nigeria, on affirmative procurement. Today in Kaduna and Lagos, the governors have passed into law the affirmative procurement policy, which gives women up to 20% of public contracts in any business. So maybe one thing we should be working at is getting that policy known in those states or in Nigeria, because we are also, the government has asked us to develop a national policy on affirmative procurement, a national policy on gender responsive planning and management and budgeting. So those things are going to come, they are going to come up. But for affirmative procurement in the states, we already have those documents. So maybe it's to share and make women know so that they can stand in and access. It is for them, it's 20%, and they have reduced even some fees that they are supposed to pay for women. There's even a group that is there specifically for women. We have a gender office in the public procurement office in Lagos. So those things are there. So there are some policies that are there that people don't know. We need to make them know. In terms of clean cooking, I would like to quickly talk about our biogas work that we've done. We are in six states. The biogas actually gives the poor people the possibility of producing their own cooking gas. And after they have withdrawn the gas, they also use the remains as organic fertilizer for their farms. So at the same time, we are using it to reduce the time spent to go and look for fuel wood and other sources of fuel. We are preventing them from smoke-related diseases. We are also helping them to manage their organic waste. And at the same time, we are helping them make money because people who do gardens will buy the organic fertilizer and then also increase their productivity. In addition, we are also helping to preserve the environment because Nigeria is one of the highest countries of deforestation. They cut a lot of wood for different things, but especially cooking. If I had one thing to tell policymakers, I will want to talk about this transformative lever. It will be a mandatory gender responsive requirements across all renewable energy and climate finance programs, both those that are privately, publicly, and donor funded. There should be a quota, just like we have the procurement, in terms of who comes into the enterprises, into the sector, who stays, what percentage in terms of leadership, because Nigeria has ratified the CEDAW, it has ratified the Beijing plus 30 platform for action, the Maputo Protocol, the African Union. So all those things, even the national gender policy of Nigeria is talking about parity. That is 50-50. So those things, we have to actually make sure that the gender blind policies are actually transformed into gender responsive policies and implemented. Thank you. But let's not forget, funding, financing is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. Thank you so much. I see some questions coming in. Jessica or Imelda, you just said longer maternity leaves or blended working after a woman gets a family instead of the strict 8 to 5. I believe you're responding to what Philagot was sharing. Jessica, you said you're currently a STEM trainee at Sustainable Energy for All in Mexico. But before this opportunity, it was very hard for you to find a job. And in a job interview, you were asked whether you were single or married and if you had children. And that made you think, about some of your choices. So it's such a dire situation. Carol, I know that you have a question. We'll take it at the Q&A portion of the after the panel discussion. All right, to you now, Meron and Annie. One question for you, both of you. If you could advocate for one concrete policy amendment to the government, and maybe multilateral organizations, what would this be? If you could advocate for one policy amendment. Let's start with you, Meron, and then Annie.
Do I go first or Philagot?
Okay, since you're right. No, it's for you and Meron. You and Meron. So, but Annie, since you're speaking, you can.
Okay, from the policy perspective, I always say that in Nigeria, I can only speak for Nigeria, policy is not our problem. As you listen to Madam Eyong, she listed all the policies. These policies from 2001 till date, we have over 10 policies on renewable energy that mainstreamed gender, but there are still gaps. So what is the problem? From experience, the problem we have in Nigeria is non-implementation, lack of ownership and awareness of these policies, and lack of accountability. Where there is failure on the part of the implementing agency or implementing officer, nothing happens. The recently passed National Integrated Electricity Policy also mainstreamed gender issues, but there is still part of the policy that is yet to be drafted, which is the strategic implementation plan part of the policy. If there's no implementation implementation plan attached to any policy. It's like another book on the shelf. We can't have an array of policies without implementation and attaching actions to offices and institutions to implement them. So my only advice to policymakers is integrate implementation and accountability frameworks to your policies. It's of no use having a long line. You won't believe the number of policies we have nationally and internationally, international agreements we have subscribed to. But the gaps are there. The only problem, like I mentioned, is lack of implementation and accountability. We can't keep on working like this. We can't keep on pushing out policies that no one listens to. So my only advice, the major advice, implement your policy initiatives and hold people accountable for any failure. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Very short and sweet. Implement the policies. Maron, what will be one policy change you'd like to have in the sector? And then we'll take you, Mwaka, as well. So, Maron, over to you.
Thank you. Actually, I would like to stress more on Ms. Batter's idea, like government should mandate gender-responsive procurement. It's not as a recommendation, it should be as a requirement, which means like setting a minimum percentage quotas for like women-led businesses, and also embedding gender scoring directly into the tendering process, and also like breaking large lenders tenders into lots, which will allow like women-led business to be participated. And for multilateral funders, I would also suggest gender disaggregated performance indicator should be included in their disbursement and also in the project. So whenever there is a fund to be released, or projects should like demonstrate these things, like the percentage of women employed, the percentage of women-led subcontracts, and compliance of this gender responsive workplace and standards should be met. So these are the basic things. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Maron. Thank you, Maron. Gender quotas, very important. Over to you, Mwaka. What would be one policy change you'd like to see that supports advances women in the sector?
Okay. I would say government should set aside a very clear percentage of renewable energy public contracts specifically for women in emerging owned businesses within the energy sector. There should be proper monitoring to ensure that this happens, and then also proper evaluation to ensure that these contracts that are being awarded are producing productivity.
Thank you so much, Mwaka. Very, very close to what Maron also shared. So that means we all agree on this point. Gender quotas are important. Gender quotas are important. And now we have come to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you so much for staying with us. Please do not be in a hurry to go. I know that we are almost at time, but please do not be in a hurry to go. But first, I want to say thank you. I see the reactions. They're lovely. Oh, thank you. And say thank you to all our panelists. Thank you, Miss Beatrice from UN Women, for joining us today. It was so lovely to have you. Thank you, Philagot Tesfaye. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Maron. Thank you, Mwaka. And thank you to RMI as well for collaborating with us on this webinar. We will now go on to a few more polls. We want to know how this has gone for you, and we'll quickly take questions. So just a moment, let me share my screen. So to go back to our polls. Okay. All right. If you can't see my screen, after today's discussion, so now we've had a lot of words, we've now ended the panel discussion. What are you most ready to do in your sphere of influence? What are you most ready to do in your sphere of influence after today's session? Would it be to advocate for gender responsive policies, mentor women entering the renewable energy sector, change hiring, procurement, collect and use gender disaggregated data, like Philagot was mentioning, support women-owned renewable energy businesses, or maybe you need to learn a bit more before you start. Can we all see my screen? Okay, I think we see some responses coming in. You can scan the QR code or go to menti.com and input that number 74132305. What are you going to do in your sphere of influence? That's the question we're asking today. What are you going to do? Okay, advocate for gender responsive policies. Okay, collect gender disaggregated data in my work. I think it's very important. Not if it doesn't get reported, it means it doesn't happen. Sometimes it also always feels like it didn't happen. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Let's go on to the second question. Thank you so much. So, describe today's session in one word, just one word. Let's know how the session went for you. Was it just there? I'm sure it wasn't just there. Was it fantastic? Was it eye-opening, enlightening, lovely, shocking? Yes, especially the interest rate of 45%. I thought that was really shocking, right? Brilliant. Oh, thank you. Let us know how the session went for you. We hope to bring and table more sessions like this, and so this is our very first with RMI, and we hope to bring more to you. Okay, insightful, beautiful, great, inspiring, informative, empowering. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Good, beautiful, lovely, lovely. These are kind words. Thank you so much. All right, to the final one. What is something that you've learned from the session today in one sentence? Before we go into Q&A, what is one thing that you've learned from today's session? One thing that you've learned. If I can see two responses, we'll take that and we'll go. One thing you've learned from today's session. I have learned a lot, especially with the data and the statistics. I have learned a lot. We need to do system level change. I completely agree. Completely agree. We need to do a system level change. Very much agree. I can see some in the comments. We need to commit. Very, very, very useful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. That whatever I can do, I want, despite the data. I've learned that gender responsive procurement in energy projects is essential. Opportunities in the sector, the scope of the inequality in the sector. Very lovely things I've learned. Thank you so much. So now it's time for Q&A. I know that I scoped a couple of comments in the chat. And the Energy House team, if you can share a feedback form in the chat, that would be lovely. You can share a feedback form so that while we're taking Q&A, we can have our audience give us feedback. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sharon says effective implementation of policies. Mary says well-defined policies. All right, so let's use the Q&A to drop in our questions. You can also call in if you want to say your questions live. But I think I will start with a question from Carol. Carol says the bigger issue is that empowerment mechanisms are being designed in isolation. Equity and participation in projects, technical inclusion, procurement access, capacity building needs to evolve together. So all of those. Otherwise, we invest in women to operate at the margins of the value chain rather than enabling them to move into ownership, contribution, and decision-making roles. How do we redesign the ecosystem so women can engage at the same scale and risk profile as everyone else? Who wants to answer that? Who wants to take a start on that? How do we redesign the ecosystem so that women can engage at the same scale and risk profile as everyone else?
Can I take that?
Yes, please.
Can I take that?
Yes, please,
So,
Annie.
why this problem is there in the first place is linked to what Phila got said about data. When you look at the energy sector, there's non-disaggregation of data. We know that 3 out of 10 in the sector are just female, but there's no demographic attached to that female age range. Why did they leave? Why are they there in the first place? So you find out that the data we have are not granular, and it's when it's granular that you understand the problems. So what I think the solution is for us to work on our data as Africans in the energy sector. The data needs to be granular. The demographic needs to be accurate so that we can tailor these policies towards whenever we have a wholesome or whenever we have a problem the problem. We
Police
get this
network.
data. It is so once we can fix.
Okay, it looks like Mani's network is a bit unstable, but hopefully she'll
Can
join us.
I,
Yes, please, Miss Beatrice.
I think to add to what she was saying, I think we actually need data to do what we call evidence-based advocacies.
Hmm.
Because if those who do policies don't even know that this is the data, this is the situation, and also why it's important to get women in the in the energy sector, then they will never take action, even if we have policies. But I think it's good to bring it to them with gender statistics and also making a business case for them. It's all around, it starts with advocacy, and it starts with analyzing the gender gaps that are still there. It comes also with mainstreaming gender and also developing a work plan and funding it. Just like I wrote in the chat, the Minister of Women's Affairs has the least budget because they don't consider that that kind of ministry that brings gender equality and women's empowerment should have much money. So if, for instance, the ministry doesn't have the money, sometimes it doesn't go into the issues of energy. They may limit themselves in one or two things, maybe going so and so. But I think if they had the resources, they will be able to do. And even within the ministry itself, there's need for institution strengthening in terms of gender in energy, because I don't believe they actually also know the stark situation that is happening. So it's a whole long-term approach. But for short-term, we need to bring it to the policymakers that this is what is happening and this needs to change. But then we need to have the statistics.
Yeah, I agree with you, Miss Beatrice. Statistics is important.
Mm,
Any question?
let-
Feel like what you want to comment? Okay.
yeah, I just want to add one thing on that to bring this, to it's a very, very, really great question. Thank you for asking that. So maybe my point is we have to be able to sit on those tables. So I want to encourage everybody here to be part of that. I mean, we don't need to wait for someone to bring that change or to create that ecosystem for us. So at whatever level we are, we have to be able to, voice out, and we have to say that this is important, and we have to vote for that. We have to write about that. We have to use every opportunity to bring the understanding into this space. So we can ask, what's my role in this space? It's not somebody's role. So that's what I want to encourage everybody, every one of us. If we want to achieve this, we have a role to play. So let's come, let's take the chair. If we are invited or not, we have to sit on the table, and everyone should hear our voice first, because we are the ones. We don't always consider ourselves as energy products beneficiaries or users. We are also the change makers out there. So we have to be convinced about that, and we have to uh, have this role play in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Philagot. We have to sit at the table. We have to sit at the table. Annie, we lost you for a bit. If you can just help us round up the Q&A session, and then we'll go up to the upcoming event. Thank you, Annie. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you very much. That's a lovely contribution to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this conversation. Thank you for your questions, for your input, your opinions, your thoughts. Carol follows up to say, thank you very much for your reflections. I fully agree that data matters for policy advocacy, but with that, we must also decide that we are prepared to change once the data confirms what is observed. Participation changes things, and we definitely have to be at the table. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you so much. We'll go now to share very quickly upcoming events that we have curated, especially for women in the renewable energy space. Again, I want to say thank you to all our panelists, Ms. Beatrice, Mwaka, Meron, Philagot, Annie. Thank you again, RMI, for collaborating with us on the webinar. It's been such an amazing time discussing important barriers, policy barriers, especially that affect women in the space. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over very quickly now to Valentina. Let me share my screen shortly so you can see.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and as I
Imagine
said on the chat, I would love to connect on LinkedIn with as many lovely folks as possible. We're gonna keep sharing updates about the upcoming Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship cohort. So really looking forward to sharing more via email, of course, as a follow-up to this, and on LinkedIn. I would also love to share with this group as a follow-up via email a survey that we're gonna rely on to help refine the design of the upcoming cohort of the Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship new cohort in Africa. So would love to hear inputs, especially from countries like Kenya, South Africa, Madagascar, and Comoros, who I know I've seen, there's a few names here representing those regions, those countries. So really looking forward to sending that out as a follow-up and receiving your important inputs. In terms of upcoming events, I wanted to share this lovely, exciting event that RMI and the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, GWNet, are hosting on March 18th as part of a celebration for International Women's Day. We're aligning with the UN theme of rights, justice, and action. So really looking forward to that discussion and to celebrating a few of our alumni, respectively, on the GWNet and RMI Global Women in Clean Energy Fellowship side. Hoping to have you join for that one. And again, we'll share more details and a registration link as a follow-up. The next slide. I believe this is just a recapping of the upcoming cohort that I mentioned already. So as I said, we'll share a survey to gather your inputs for design of the upcoming cohort. We'll have another 50 women from across Nigeria, Ethiopia, Zambia, like we did last year, with additional countries this year, which most likely are going to be Kenya, Madagascar, Comoros, and South Africa. So really looking forward to hearing your inputs, to seeing your applications. I think this is a very exciting program because it mixes the technical training that we were talking about with the leadership-based skills training. So it offers a very comprehensive approach to capacity building, and the feedback we've received so far is positive. So I was really glad to read that and to see that it was a helpful program for our alumni. Applications will open in April, and the next cohort will start in May. So again, I'll share more via email and on LinkedIn. So I look forward to connecting with everyone. Thank you, Tosin, and thank you to our panelists today. Thank you to the audience, and back to you, Tosin.
Thank you. Thank you, Valentina. And like I was saying, if you had joined earlier when we started the webinar, I was a part of the first cohort. Myself, Annie, Mwaka, and Meron were all part of the first cohort of the fellowship, and we can say that it was a very lovely program, especially for women in the space, right? And I remember reading something on LinkedIn a few days back where someone was saying that a lot of these programs usually have age barriers, and I'm proud to say that there are no age barriers for this program. So it doesn't matter your age, anything. There are no barriers for this program. So would love to have you participate. Okay, thank you so much, Valentina. And just two more things to mention before we close out for today. I would love that you contribute to our Women Policy and the Energy Transition Report, which is pretty much a combination of our insights today, our thoughts, all that we have shared, even from Mentimeter, and we'll put that into a paper or maybe an article that will be published in the week of March, International Women's Day. So if you fill the feedback form, you would have a question that asks if you want to contribute. We would love to see you contribute. We want to have as many people as possible, and we would definitely have your name on the paper when it's published if you contribute. So please fill the feedback form and indicate your interest. And finally, we have a campaign for International Women's Day. We're coming up with like a short film, if I can say, and we are going with the give to gain. Give to gain theme for this year, and we want to know you as women, what are you giving and what are we gaining as a result. We've said a lot of things, and most important of all, we've said that we need a seat at the table. So we're putting together a small video campaign as a very short video, 30-second video to say what you give and what you gain. You can scan that QR code. You can also use the link. We will share all this information by email, possibly by tomorrow morning. So yes, this is all that we have planned and curated for you. And we want to say a very big thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who made it to our first policy conversation on women, policy, and the energy transition. It was such a delight to spend so much time with you guys today, to all of you today. So sorry we're a bit over time. I apologize. We wanted to say a lot, right? But 90 minutes was too short. So, but thank you so much again for joining us. And again, a huge thank you to all our panelists. You took time out of your busy schedule to share your thoughts, your insights, especially around issues impacting women in the space. And so for that, we're very grateful. To you, our audience, thank you for engaging. Thank you for interacting. Thank you so much for being a part of this webinar. We do appreciate each and every one of you for your questions, for your thoughts, for your reactions. It made everything so enriching and such a lovely, robust webinar for us today. Feel free to connect to each other, connect to us on LinkedIn, connect to all the panelists, follow UN Women, follow RMI, follow EnergyHaus. If you want us to plan programs like this in Africa or even outside Africa, we're open. We want to talk about women. We want more women in the space, and we're always open to talk about initiatives and programs to support the inclusion of women in Africa's renewable energy ecosystem. Thank you so much, everyone. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tosin. Thank you,
Jocelyn.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Everyone,
Thank
have
you,
a good
Jocelyn.
evening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Valentina. Thank you,
Thank you. We
Nkem,
look forward to being in touch.
everybody.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Miss